Welcome to Learn Commerce PU online classes. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe our YouTube channel for all the updates.
Welcome to our second PU Computer Science online classes, and we are in the concept pointers. It is a new chapters, the chapter 11, the name of the chapter pointers. So in this case, first of all I am not going to tell the meaning of the pointers. So here just only the first thing I am going to start, that is from the introduction. So here in our introduction we can say that when writing a program, when you are going to write maybe the simple program or maybe the problematic program, you declare the necessary variables that you will need in order to complete your program. Correct no here? It is not the new thing. I said you are going to write maybe any kind of program, maybe the simple or any type of program. First of all, we need to make some declaration of the variables. What are the variables we need to use in our program? We are going to make the declaration of the variables here. So just to complete our program. So we can say that when declaring variables, we are simply asking the computer to reserve a set amount of space in its memory. Correct no? Why? Because if no space is there in computer, we declared the variable but no space, is it possible to store such variable in our memory space, in our computer memory space? No. Before going to declare the variable, we should remember, we should note it whether the space is there or not in our computer here. So we can say that when declaring variable, you are simply asking the computer to reserve a set amount of space, some of the amount of the space in its memory for a particular object you want to use. What's the object you want to declare? First of all, we need some memory space. Or in simple words, we can say that when you declare a variable, the computer reserves an amount of space in its memory. Correct no here? For a particular object here. The same thing, whatever I said, just only by using the other word. Now also I said when you declare a variable, our computer simply reserving the amount of space for such or for a particular variable, and not just only reserving, the computer also gives us some variable names. Correct no here? If you are not using the name for such memory space, is it possible to find out, to identify here? No. So we can say that after reserving the memory space, our computer gives us some of the variables name to refer to that memory space here. Now why we using such memory space? Why? Because we already given, the computer already reserved some memory space here. We already given some name to such memory space here. Now why we using such a memory space? Why? Because you will allow, or this memory space allow you to store something, that means to store some of the value. We are using such a memory space. Correct no? Maybe the name of the variable is there. In name we are using, in name of the variable we are using some, we are storing some of the value here. So we can say that here this will allow you to store something, namely the value of that variable in that space. Correct here? So we can say that. Why? Because in our pointer here the address is the most important. So indeed the computer refer that space using an address. Clear this point here? Why? Because maybe in other program, in other kind of the program, maybe in our inheritance or maybe any type of the program, program, the address is not important, but in our pointer the address thing is very important. Why? Because we are referring the memory space of such variable just by referring the name of the space, correct? Now by referring the name of the variable name here, but our computer referring that space using the address. Clear this point here? Referring to that space using an address here. So in pointer, therefore whatever you declare, everything has an address, just like the address of our house. Clear? For every house we have some of the address here, just only. So like that only, whatever the memory space is there in pointer, or maybe we can say that for everything the computer providing some of the address to such a memory space here. And why we using such a memory address? Why? Because to find out what address for a particular object is using, we can find out the object, the variable also just by referring the address, correct? No here? Or we don't want the address, but our computer referring the memory space by using the address. Why? Because in our pointer the most important thing is the address here. Maybe this is some point about our introduction in our pointers here. So clear this point here. But also we can say that whatever the concept is there in our C++, maybe the concept is the data abstraction, data encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism. So many concepts are there in our C++. But also we can say that the pointers are a very powerful concept in our C++, and such pointer have the following advantages. So what are the advantage of the pointers? So some of the advantages of the pointers are here. So it possible to write efficient programs, that means by using the concept of pointer, some of the concept is there about our pointer. By if you are using such a concept of the pointer, we can write the efficient programs here. So the first advantage of the pointer, it possible to write efficient programs. And the second, we can say that the memory is utilized properly. So when you want any memory space for the declaration of the variable, you will get such a memory space here. So we can say that the memory is utilized properly. Okay, when you want any memory, you will get such memory here. So the second point, the memory is utilized properly. And the third point, we can say that the dynamically allocate and deallocate memory is possible by using the pointers. So what do you mean by a allocation and deallocation of the memory? If you want the memory space, it called as the allocation. If you don't want, then such memory going to deallocate. Clear this point here? So we can say that here, that means if you want any memory or if you don't want any memory, such concept is also possible by using the concept of our pointers here. So that is called as the dynamic allocate and deallocate of memory here. And the fourth point, we can say that easy to deal with hardware components. So why? Because with that, not just only the program, whatever the hardware components we are going to use with the pointer concept, while going to complete the pointer concept, all those hardware components are going to work with the pointer programs here. So clear this point here. So easy to deal with the hardware components here. And finally we can say that establish the communication between the program and the data here. That means first of all, it going to make the relationship or establishing a communication or the relationship, the proper communication and relationship between the name of the variable and address of the location. Okay, the address of the location and the name of the variable, there is making some of the relationship between these two in this case here. So all these are called as the advantage of the pointers here. So we can say that the first advantage, it possible to write efficient programs, memory is utilized properly. Third one is dynamic allocation and deallocation of memory. Fourth one is easy to deal with hardware component. And lastly we can say that there is a relationship or the communication, proper communication between program and the data, that is called as the address of the location and name of the variables. Clear this point here? With the address and the name of the variable, if they are working properly, then no any problem to get the execution of the pointer program here. So all these advantages going to apply to our pointers here. Now let's see the next important thing about memory representation of pointers. So now we are in the concept of the memory representation of pointers here. So still here we know that why, because some of the introduction and also some advantage of the pointers. Now what we are going to learn in our memory representation of pointers in this case. So we can say, before understanding the concept of pointers, so what are the concept? Maybe the advantage of the pointers, introduction of the pointers, meaning of the pointer, declaration, defining, initialization, types of pointer, whatever is there in our pointer concept here. So before going to learn all those concept of the pointer, it is very necessary to know more about the memory organization of the pointer. About the memory organization in pointer, how the memory going to organize here. First of all, we should know, later words we are going to refer the meaning of pointer, declaration of the pointer here. So in pointer, the memory is organized as an array of bytes. Clear this point here? I said in our pointer, the memory is organized as an array of bytes. Clear this point here? So now we know the meaning of the array. What's the meaning of the array? The meaning of array is a collection of elements. Clear this one? The collection of data is just only called as the array. But here I written as the array of bytes. Now what do you mean by a byte in pointer? Clear this point here? Why? Because I said in pointer, here the memory is organized as an array of bytes. You know the meaning of the array, collection, but now the meaning of the bytes here. So in case we can say that a byte is a basic storage. Okay, by using the byte in this case, I am going to tell about this one. So a byte is a basic storage and accessible unit in memory. So maybe whatever the value is there, maybe the value is 15. If I want to access the value 15, then sure you are going to access the address of the location. Clear this point here? The address of the location 15 here. So the 15 address is the 0. We want to refer the address 0 if you want to access the value 15 here. So we can say that a byte is a basic storage and accessible unit in memory here, and each byte is identifiable by an unique number. So maybe I want to identify the byte. So how we are going to identify the byte? So in our pointer, a byte is identifiable by a unique number called as an address. Clear this point here? Whatever the address is there, such address not going to repeat again. The address we need to use as a unique number. So in this example, I used 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So like that, for each value I used, or for each value I used the different kind of the address here. So clear this point here? So in pointer, the memory is organized as an array of bytes here. The meaning of the byte is a basic storage and accessible unit here, and the byte is going to identify by using the unique number, and such unique number is called as an address. Clear this point here? So this is the meaning of the array of bytes here. And in this example, or we can say that suppose we have 1 KB of memory. So 1 KB is equal to, what's the byte? How many bytes? 1 KB is equal to, so here we can say that 1 KB is equal to 1024 bytes. Correct? No? In this case here, why? Because I already drawn in this example, I started the address that is from the 0 and till our 1023. Why? Because I started from the 0. So the range subscript will going to end 1023 here. So in this example, I used 1 KB of bytes. The 1 KB of bytes is equal to 1024 bytes here, and in this way, or in this case, the memory can be viewed as an array of location. Clear this point here? And how I am going to view the memory as an array of location of the bytes 1024. Correct no kya? Why? Because going to start from 0, 1023, but you should remember it. Why? Because while going to count, we are going to start from 1001. Correct here? So 1024. So the memory can be viewed as an array of location of the byte 1024 kya with the subscript range 0 to 1023. Clear this point? With the subscript range 0 to 1023, and in this example the 0 represent the address of the first location. That means it going to represent the address or indicating the address of the first location, and 1 represent the address of the second location here, and maybe second represent the address of the third location, and so on. Or finally we can say that 1023 representing the address of the last location. Okay, so this is about the memory representation. Why? Because in our pointer the address is a very important in this case here. So we can say that by using the address we are going to refer the value of such location. So this is about our memory organization of a pointers here. But also we can say that, or we know that the variables are declared before they are used in a program. Why? Because I already said in our introduction, whatever the variable you are going to declare or what's the variable you want to use in program, first of all we need to make the declaration of such variables. The same thing I repeated here. That means I want to tell the variables are declared before they are used in the program, and the declaration of the variables tells the compiler to perform the following. Whatever the variable you are going to declare in program here, on that time only such a declaration of the variable telling something to our compiler to perform some operations here. So what are the operation it going to perform, or what it going to tell to our compiler to perform some operations? The operations are, we can say that allocate a location in memory. So what about allocate a location in memory? Maybe if you are using the data type int, sure, how many byte we need to locate or allocate? 2 bytes. If you are using char data type, 1 byte. So that one only I want to tell in our allocate a location in memory, the number of location depending on the data type. Clear this point here? How we are going to reserve the location, how we are going to reserve the amount of space in memory, it depend on the data type. So we can say that the number of location that is depend on the data type here. And second thing we can say that not just only the memory allocation we need to establish the relationship between the address of the location and name of the variables. I already said. Why? Because we need to make the communication, we need to establish the relationship between address as well as with the location. That is called as the, why? Because in this case I used the name of the variable name as the location. Okay, you can use any other name, maybe the num, sum, anything you can use as a name of the variables. So that means when you are going to declare the variable, the compiler it going to, that means our compiler, or we can say that whenever it going to declare the variable telling something to our compiler here to perform some of the operation. The first operation is allocate a location in memory to reserve a number of location, it depend on the data type. And second thing is the establish the relationship between our address of the location and name of the variables. Now let's see whatever I completed shall be used by using one example. So consider the declaration. The declaration is the int num. Clear this point here? I used the name of the variable as num and the data type is the int here. And we know that how many byte it going to use? The byte is the 2 bytes. Clear this point here? It going to use the 2 bytes in this case. So we can say that, or when you are going to declare int num, this declaration tells the compiler to reserve a location in memory, okay, to reserve a amount of space when you are going to declare. So don't think about this one and don't see the diagram also. I am going to tell just only the int num, about the explanation of the int num. So when you are going to declare any variable by using their data type, this declaration tells the compiler. Why? Because to reserve a amount of space in memory. Clear this one here? As we know that, why? Because the size of the int is 2 byte, correct no kya? The size of int is the 2 byte, float is 4 byte, carry is 1 byte here. So we know that the size of the int is 2 byte, so the location would be 2 byte wide. Clear this point here? It is the location, and when you are, so this is the example about such a declaration in this case here. So here we can say that, first of all, what is the name of the variable? The name of the variable is the num here, and that stores the value 15, okay. The name of the variable is the num, that stores the value 15, and later words we can say that means the address of the num is the 100. Clear this point here? The address of the num is the 100. This is the name of the variable, and in this case in memory space we added the value for the num variable as 15, and 100 is the address of the variable num, okay. It is the address of the variable num, and you should remember it, the address of a variable is also an unsigned integer number. That means we are not using 100.5 like that. Whatever the address is, they are going to use in unsigned integer number. We are not using sign also. It's a unsigned, without sign, okay. So 100, 101 all are the example of the address, and all these are the good example for our unsigned integer number here. And such unsigned integer number or the address of the variable, it can also be retrieved and can be stored in another variable. So we can store such address in another variable. So this is the main concept of the pointers. Clear this point here? That means the pointer, later I will tell the meaning of the pointer in this case. Now just we completed some concept about the pointer, about the memory representation of the pointers here. And when you are going to declare any variable, then such variable, declaration of the variable, what it going to tell to our compiler here, and later what's the meaning of this line here, and later next one, it is the one simple example whatever we declared, such by using such example I completed one diagram. And later was, why? Because I already said it can also be retrieved. So what about, that means the address of a number, the address of a variable can also be retrieved. What's the meaning of the retrieving? Retrieving means get back again or get back something, accessing again here, okay. If you want such address, you can access from one variable to another variable here. That means whatever the address is there, such address we can store in another variable also. So this is the main concept of the pointer. Clear this point here? So we can say that one variable address we can store in another variable. So this is the concept of pointer. Clear to everyone? So we can say that. Now let's see. Now we are going to start the pointer meaning here. So what about the pointer meaning in this case? So we can say that a pointer is a variable that holds the memory address. Okay, it is a variable like other variable, it is also a variable, but this variable holds the address of another variable. Clear this point here? So we can say that usually the location of another variable in memory. So just only maybe one variable is that is ampersand num. Clear this point here? Ampersand num here, and I want to use one more variable. The variable is the IPT. So you should know it. Why? Because before going to use any variable, we need to make the declaration. But here I am not going to make the declaration. You have to think about, I already declared the variable num. I already declared IPTR variable here. Here just I want to tell. Why? Because here I completed this one. Just I want to tell about the meaning of the pointer. So I said it is a pointer is a variable that hold memory address of another variable. So this variable address is holded by our IPTR. Clear this point here? IPTR in this case here. So we can say that pointer is a variable that holds memory address of another variable, usually the location of another variable in memory. So why we using such a pointer variable? Just only to hold the address of the another variable. Clear this point here? We are adding the address of the another variable in our pointer variable here. So now let's see the declaration of the pointer. So what are the declaration of the pointers in this case? So we can say that the general form or the declaration of the pointer are data type, pointer variable underscore name semicolon. It's a very important topic, this one. So we can say that the declaration or the general form of the pointers we can going to write as the data type, pointer variable underscore name semicolon. I already given one example. Int, the data type, for the data type I used as the int here, pointer that is the asterisk here, variable underscore name, the name is the IPTR semicolon. Okay, so we can say that what are the data type we are going to use in our declaration of the pointer. So the data type is any valid data type. So what are the valid data types are there? Maybe the int, char, float, all are comes in the valid data type. So for the data type, any kind of data type we can use here that is supported, that means the valid data type that is supported by our C++ or any user defined type or user defined data type can also we can use in our in the place of the data type here. And later next one we can say that the variable underscore name, it is the name of the pointer variable. Clear this point here? The variable underscore name is the name of the pointer variable. Or finally we can say that the presence of asterisk, that means the star symbol we are going to, or in simple manner we can say as the star symbol, but it is not called as the star, it is called as the asterisk in this case here. So the presence of asterisk indicates that it is the pointer variable. Clear this point here? It is the pointer variable here. So and we already know the meaning of the pointer. What's the meaning of the pointer? It is also a variable, but such a variable holds the address of the another variable. Clear this point here? Why we declaring the pointer? Just to hold the address of the another variable, usually the location of another variable in memory. And later next one, let's see some of the defining of pointer. So in our defining of pointer, we can say that I am going to define some of the pointer. Maybe the pointer is the int pointer IPTR semicolon, or maybe the float pointer FPTR semicolon, and finally maybe the char pointer CPTR semicolon. Clear this point here? Now I define, that means I define some of the pointer variable. So the first pointer variable I define, that is the int pointer IPTR. So what about the int pointer IPTR? So here we can say that IPTR is declared to be a pointer variable of type int. That means the data type is the int. So it allocating the size of space is the 2 byte. Clear this point here? And the second example, float pointer FPTR. So FPTR is declared to be a pointer variable of type float here. And finally we can say that the third one is the, that means float means it is going to provide the size 4 byte here. And finally char pointer CPTR. So CPTR is declared to be a pointer variable of type char. Clear this point here? So this is called as the defining a pointer variable. Thank you.